Discipline is not what you think it is. The version of discipline that self-help culture sells, the cold showers, the 5 a.m. wake-ups, the motivational quotes on the bathroom mirror, the 30-day challenges, is not the discipline that builds millionaire minds. It is the performance of discipline, the aesthetic of discipline, the Instagram version of discipline that feels productive and looks impressive and produces almost nothing of lasting financial consequence. The discipline that actually builds wealth is darker than that, quieter, less photogenic, and psychologically far more demanding than anything a morning routine can prepare you for. This video is about the real discipline of millionaire minds, not the surface behaviors, the psychological architecture underneath, the specific mental frameworks, the specific tolerances, and the specific forms of suffering that the wealthy endure, while everyone else is watching motivational content about enduring them. Because the dark truth about millionaire discipline is this: it is not about doing more. It is about thinking differently. And thinking differently requires dismantling a set of mental defaults that were installed in you by a system that profits from your maintaining them. The most fundamental discipline of the millionaire mind is one that nobody talks about, because it cannot be photographed or scheduled or tracked in a habit app. It is the ability to sit with unresolved uncertainty for extended periods without forcing a premature resolution. Most people cannot do this. The human brain is wired to seek resolution. Uncertainty activates the same stress response as physical threat. The cortisol rises, the anxiety builds. The pressure to do something, decide something, resolve something becomes overwhelming. And the relief of resolution, even a bad resolution, even an incorrect decision made just to end the uncertainty, feels better than the continued discomfort of not knowing. This is why most people make financial decisions too fast. They take the job offer before exploring the alternatives. They sell the investment when it drops, rather than holding through the volatility. They accept the first price, rather than tolerating the discomfort of negotiating. They choose the familiar option over the unfamiliar one, because the familiar option resolves the uncertainty immediately, even when the unfamiliar option is clearly superior. Millionaires are not immune to this pressure. The uncertainty is just as uncomfortable for them as for anyone else. What they have developed, through practice, through experience, through being burned enough times by premature resolution, is the capacity to hold the uncertainty without acting on it. To say, "I do not know yet," and mean it as a strategic position rather than as a failure. Warren Buffett has described his investment process as doing nothing for very long periods while waiting for certainty to arrive. The discipline is not in the doing. The discipline is in the sustained inaction while the uncertain situation resolves itself into something legible. Most people cannot maintain that inaction. The anxiety of the uncertainty drives them into the market at the wrong time, out of the market at the wrong time, and into decisions that relieve the psychological pressure at the cost of the financial outcome. The first discipline of the millionaire mind is learning to be more afraid of premature resolution than of sustained uncertainty. The millionaire mind does not pay equal attention to everything. It has developed a ruthless filtering system that directs cognitive resources toward the highest leverage activities and systematically ignores everything else. This sounds obvious. Everyone knows they should focus on what matters. But the gap between knowing this and actually practicing it is where most people's financial potential disappears. The default human attention system is designed for social relevance rather than financial leverage. It pays attention to what is new, what is urgent, what other people are paying attention to, and what produces immediate, visible results. These are all reasonable criteria for social survival. They are terrible criteria for wealth building. Wealth building requires sustained attention on activities whose results are invisible for months or years. It requires ignoring most of what feels urgent in favor of what is actually important. It requires being able to sit in a room where everyone else is focused on something interesting and exciting, while you maintain your attention on something boring and slow-moving that will matter far more in 5 years. Jeff Bezos has described his decision-making process as focused on what will be the same in 10 years, rather than on what is changing now. The discipline required to orient your attention toward the 10-year constant, while everything around you demands attention to this week's development, is extraordinary. Most people cannot maintain it. The new thing always feels more important than the right thing. The millionaire mind's asymmetric attention also manifests in its relationship with information. The wealthy are selective consumers of information in ways that look like ignorance to people who consume everything. They are not ignorant. They have learned that most available information is noise that consumes attention without improving decisions. The discipline is in the filtering, knowing what to ignore completely so that the things that matter receive sufficient cognitive resource to be genuinely understood. Every millionaire has lost money. Most have lost significant amounts. Many have lost everything and rebuilt. The ability to do this, to absorb financial loss without allowing it to damage the self-concept in ways that prevent the next attempt, is one of the most psychologically difficult and most financially essential disciplines available. The poverty mindset processes financial loss as identity evidence. A failed business is proof that you are not the kind of person who succeeds at business. A bad investment is confirmation that you do not know how to invest. A missed opportunity is evidence of your inadequacy. Each loss becomes a layer of proof that the gap between where you are and where wealthy people are is a function of who you fundamentally are, rather than of what you have tried. The millionaire mind processes financial loss as information. Expensive information, painful information, information you would rather not have paid for, but information nonetheless. The failed business tells you something specific about what did not work. The bad investment reveals something precise about a gap in your analysis. The missed opportunity shows you what you were not positioned to recognize in time. This distinction sounds simple. It is one of the hardest psychological shifts in the entire discipline of wealth building. Because the identity damage response to loss is not a choice. It is automatic. It happens before the rational mind engages. And reversing it requires not intellectual understanding, but repeated practice of a different response to the same stimulus, processing the loss before it can calcify into identity evidence. The millionaire discipline here is not the absence of pain. The losses hurt. The failures are genuinely devastating in the moment. The discipline is in the recovery speed, the ability to move from devastation to analysis faster than the identity damage response can permanently attach itself to the event. Self-help culture talks endlessly about delayed gratification. Eat the marshmallow later. Skip the coffee and invest the difference. The framing is always about delaying consumption, about waiting for the reward. The actual millionaire discipline is deeper and darker than this. It is not about delaying gratification. It is about delaying the identity that wealth is supposed to produce. The display economy tells you that the proof of your financial success is visible. The car, the house, the watch, the restaurant, the vacation that gets photographed. These are the evidence that you have made it. And the psychological pressure to acquire these proofs of arrival is not simply about vanity. It is about the deep human need to have a current answer to the question of who you are and what you have become. Millionaires in the building phase are living with an unanswered version of this question. They are redirecting money that could answer it, that could buy the visible proof of arrival, back into assets and systems that produce no immediate identity payoff. They are deferring not consumption, but the self-concept that consumption would temporarily provide. This is far harder than skipping a daily coffee. It is maintaining, for years, the identity of someone who is building rather than someone who has arrived, while peers display their arrival, while social comparison constantly signals that you are behind, while every mechanism of the display economy tells you that the proof of success is visible now and you should show it. The millionaire discipline is refusing that pressure long enough for the invisible accumulation to become real. Most people cannot hold the deferred identity long enough. They buy the arrival before it arrives, and in buying it, they prevent it. The final dark discipline of millionaire minds is the one that most completely separates their financial thinking from the financial thinking of everyone else. Ordinary financial thinking is event-based. Something happens, and you respond. The market drops, and you sell. The opportunity appears, and you pursue it. The salary arrives, and you spend it. Each financial event is evaluated and responded to individually, as if it exists in isolation from every other financial event. Millionaire thinking is systems-based. Every financial event is evaluated not in isolation, but as part of a pattern, a system whose behavior over time is what actually determines the outcome. The single transaction matters less than what the transaction reveals about the system producing it. The single month's income matters less than the income-generating system it came from. The single investment decision matters less than the decision-making system that produced it. This system's orientation changes every financial decision. When you think in events, you optimize each event for the best available outcome in that moment. When you think in systems, you optimize each event for what it does to the system, sometimes accepting a worse outcome in the moment because the better outcome would damage the system that produces outcomes over time. Ray Dalio built Bridgewater, one of the most successful hedge funds in history, on the explicit principle of systems thinking applied to financial decision-making. He did not try to make good decisions. He tried to build a system that reliably produced good decisions. The distinction is everything. Good decisions are lucky. Good systems are durable. The dark discipline here is that systems thinking is slow, boring, and produces no immediate visible reward. Events are exciting. Events feel productive. Events generate the sense of progress that human psychology craves. Systems thinking requires giving up that sense of event-driven progress in exchange for something more valuable and less immediately satisfying. A reliable engine that produces results whether or not any individual event goes well. These 5 disciplines, tolerating uncertainty, asymmetric attention, loss processing, identity deferral, and systems thinking, do not operate independently. They form an architecture. Each one supports the others. Each one makes the others more effective. The ability to tolerate uncertainty enables asymmetric attention. You can ignore the urgent noise because you're not driven by the need to resolve uncertainty immediately. The ability to process loss without identity damage enables identity deferral. You can maintain the deferred self-concept because a setback does not collapse the foundation it rests on. The systems thinking orientation enables all of the others. You can tolerate uncertainty, maintain attention, and defer identity because you understand the system that will eventually produce the outcome you are building toward. Together, these disciplines do not make wealth building easy. They make it possible. And they make it possible for people who are not exceptionally talented, not exceptionally connected, and not exceptionally lucky. People who simply learned to think differently about money, time, identity, and loss than the culture surrounding them was designed to teach. The culture was not designed to teach you these disciplines. The display economy profits from your event thinking, your premature resolution, your identity purchases, and your attention to the wrong things. The system has a commercial interest in you not developing the architecture of millionaire discipline, which means that developing it is not simply a financial decision. It is a choice about what kind of psychological relationship with the world you want to inhabit. The millionaire minds who built durable wealth made that choice. Usually without understanding they were making it, usually through hard experience rather than deliberate design. Usually by learning the dark way, what these disciplines produce and what their absence costs. You now understand what they learned the hard way.